you've mentioned before that you grew up completely broke, and you even said your dad was earning like $13 an hour supporting, multiple children in a household, which is not easy.
I don't know how they did that. He was a maintenance man, and my mom cleaned homes part-time, but she had to take care of the kids most of the time. And yeah, you're right. Like it's hard to reconcile how someone got to where they are. And I think a lot of times it is familial wealth, I guess, where they're able to achieve that. And I see a lot of that. I think I'm just attracted to people that are like getting down and dirty, like just use their hands for a living.
More.
Yeah. I just like from a personality perspective, I just get along a lot better with those people. And I just find that they're more my people. Like, and I've spent 20 years on income making, and the prior 20 years poor, 0 to 19, didn't have any money. And I just feel like I relate to the younger group or the earlier group of people in my life a lot better.
When did you realize as a kid that you were broke?
You just know, like, you see what's around you. We didn't live in a bad city. We lived in like Carroll Stream, Illinois. We bounced around a bunch. I went to 5 different elementary schools, and most of them were like blue collar to a little bit better than that, like suburbs. They weren't horrible suburbs, but so there's always a mix of kids that have money. And back then, like if you had a 2,500 square foot house, which is a sizable house, right? But that was a mansion to me. Like I remember just looking at this neighborhood by me, and they were all 2,000, and I'm like, gosh, like I can't imagine having something like this in my life. And you just know, like you show up to school without enough money for field trips. You're embarrassed to be dropped off. If you have a car, we didn't even have a car till I was almost 10. And then it's like, gosh, Mom, can you drop me off like 50 feet behind the drop-off line? You just know. It's hard to quantify it, but you know.
In hindsight, are you glad you grew up that way?
I love it. I wouldn't change a single thing about my childhood. Like we had a ton of freedom, and I don't know if that was unique to my parents or if that's more, how it is with income related. But like we can go anywhere, do any, or the time. It was probably more of like the time, since that was 80s, 90s. But I love the freedoms that I had. I love the closeness of like my siblings. We all still live within 4 or 5 minutes of each other right now. And I think it does teach you a lot later in life to appreciate what you have, that you have to grind and work really hard to get where you're at.
What did it teach you?
I mean, it taught me to be like, up until a few years ago, like I hassle and haggle everything still, and almost to a fault sometimes. I had to like evaluate the way I was like paying I have a personal trainer that we have here at our gym. I'm haggling this guy, and I'm like, finally, gosh, I just got to pay this guy. Like he's a good guy, and you're just
finally got to pay him.
He's a good guy. He's talented, and this kind of was the way it was with a lot of things. Now I tip well at restaurants. I always have, but like you just get so used to like having to fight and watch every dollar when you grow up that way, where I'm like, I shouldn't be paying this guy $50 a session. Like he charged this, but I'm like, hey, if I buy 20 of them, can I get him? I shouldn't be doing that. I should be paying him higher than that actually, and find ways for him to make more money to keep him loyal to us. And
hopefully he doesn't watch this.
Yeah, no, for real. I mean, and it's true.
All of a sudden the price triples.
I'm like, hey, if I bring in a few more people, but you still work your same hour, can we do it at 125? And of course he's going to do that, and he works hard, and he's worth every penny of it. So I had to shift my mindset, because you learn to fight for every dollar and watch every dollar as well. And so I think that that's still a good thing, because I'm still cautious. I'm not just going to go divvy that up, but I'm still going to go negotiate, search really hard on cars, making sure that I'm getting a good deal. I manage all of I have an accountant, but I manage all my finances. I deal with everything that gets fixed, repaired at my homes. I do way more. Like everyone's like, who's your assistant? I'm like, I don't have it. Henry helps me with the Hamilton collection channel related things, but like I do all my stuff. I always have. I spend 10 hours a week managing emails related to properties and everything. And like, I like being close to that stuff. And I don't know, I've gone on a tangent, but I guess what I'm getting at is it teaches you a lot growing up that way to keep an eye on that stuff, but you have to be careful. When you achieve wealth and some success, it's important to take care of those.
Yeah. How else has your perspective on money changed?
It was very, it's different. Like you maintain that same hunger. Like I never lost that hunger to be successful and earn income. More of it was to be successful and like break the rut that my parents put me in. And God bless them, they worked hard. My dad's no longer with us, but like he worked hard. They both had their faults. I think that I was always driven. I'm still driven. The wheel and tire companies, I'm very involved in them today, and we have a great C-suite that runs the companies day to day. I'm more like high level. I do some checks and balances and more high level ideas. I've never really felt like it's been rare where I've sat and I've felt successful, where you just sit and you're like, I'm going to just sit and embellish what I've done and what I've created. It's more like just driven by like success, like wanting to grow the company. Like there's a competitive aspect to it. But like I am at an interesting time in my life where at one point I had, I think 35, 40 properties, and I had a manager that did manage the properties, but I was still involved to a point. I had 7 Pet Supplies Plus stores. I had an Arby's. I had other business investments. And like, I look at it now and I'm like, I don't know how I was able to manage that. Like, I don't have the mental tenacity that I did 3 years ago. And part of it was because I made a decision that I just I've built enough equity in my primary business where I just don't need all of this other stuff. Like, it's not worth the stress. And also real estate kind of peak valued about a year and a half ago. So I've always timed stuff really well with real estate. I bought when it was really low. I don't do a lot of activity when the market is slightly increasing. It's more like, okay, there's been huge double-digit growth in real estate for 2 or 3 years. It's time to sell at this point. Like it's going to level out. And so I sold a ton of my properties in the last year to year and a half, really. Sold off all the Pet Supplies Plus stores. The Arby's actually went out of business. That was partners that were operating it. And there's a long story to that, but that's gone. And right now it's really just wheel and tire companies. And then this channel, the Hamilton Collection that we run here. And I still feel like mentally, I'm pretty full. But that's why I'm like, it's crazy to think back at what I managed before. And I don't know how I don't know how I could go back and do something like that.
Part of me, if this is too personal, but you mentioned your dad passed away.
Yeah.
Did he ever get to see everything that you built?
Not the cars, but he passed away in 2017. So he saw 14 years of me growing, and he worked actually for the company in the last year. And so he knew what we had grown. We were in a 100,000 square foot building. We had probably 200 employees at the time. So he got to see it. And it's weird. You're getting personal, and I have no problem with that. I think it's great. And like the first thing I think of though is like, and maybe this is why I'm so success driven and maybe it's part of their generation, but like what they didn't do was really issue praise. It felt like there was always a little bit of element of jealousy kind of, and then expectations that came along with that. And so I think that's part of why you're like, well, if I haven't done enough, or if I'm not getting praise, like how much harder do I need to work to get that praise? So I know deep down inside, because I would hear from other people how they would brag and do other things, but it's like, if you have a kid that's doing well, no matter what it is, like you don't understand how far it goes just saying, hey, like you've done a great job. I'm really proud of you. And I didn't really get that. I'm not looking for like a sap story in any way. It's just, I don't know why my brain's just wired to think about that when I'm asked that question. It's like, well, I know they were proud, but they didn't really express it to me. They saw it, but I don't remember really hearing how awesome it was from them. So
would that have changed the way you run business or go about that?
Who knows, right? Yeah. Maybe I would have become content. Probably not.
Right.
Probably not. But who knows? You never know.
Now, with your kids, how are you approaching the situation differently?
It's totally different. So like there were no I love yous from my dad either. Like that is more a generational thing. Like I have there's a lot of people my age where like that was a weird taboo. Where like my kids, I tell them 10 times a day how much I love them. Just totally different. Like we're very close. All 3 of my kids are very close. It's weird because they have a lot of things. They have access to a lot of things that other kids don't have. So it's how can I fill them with love, teach them the value of $1, instill work ethic in them while they have all of this extra stuff. So that's the constant balance with the kids. Yeah.
That's a tricky
It really is.
Thing
to
figure out.
And I read somewhere where the most important thing when they surveyed a bunch of kids and how they operated later in life, the most important thing that taught kids discipline or led to success in life was if they had a job. And I'm like, maybe that was just like the Department of Labor or something, just trying to like there are shortages in the lower end sector, and I'm like, you never know what you read. Like it literally could have been
fair point.
It could have been sponsored by someone there, but I'm like, that one got me thinking. Where I'm like, I've always told my kids, like, if you do really well in school, as long as you have another hobby, whether it's football, my son does coding and he does workouts. So if he's maintaining straight A's and has something else, like, I think it would be unfair to ask him to work because he's already working really hard to do that stuff. But it has to be just beyond straight A's. There has to be something else. And now if there's ever a point where that stops, where it's okay, I'm just doing school, I'm getting straight A's, then you got to go to work.
It's funny because my parents didn't let me work when I was growing up because they wanted me to focus on school.
Yeah.
But I feel like for me that ended up working out really well because then I never had money growing up. So all my friends would go out to eat and I would go and I would just watch them eat because I had no money to pay for food. And so it made me want to have money so bad. And all of this like built up until the point where I got my first job when I was 18, you know, immediately getting a job. And then I started saving every dollar because I knew the value of a dollar. But maybe it's just how you take it, you know?
Yeah, and we've always told our kids like what I've been fortunate enough to achieve in life, like this is not the norm. Don't expect that life is going to be easy for you. It wasn't easy for me. Like most of the youth today think that they're going to get rich quick in 1 to 2 years, but the vast majority of people are my age or older that have achieved even close to this level of wealth, and they will say it is a long grind. It is a 10, 20 plus year grind. Don't expect to get rich overnight, drop shipping or doing whatever the next fad is. I was just having this conversation with Henry, who answers a lot of our DMs for the Hamilton collection. And it's like, hey, like he's thinking about whether or not to go to college. And I'm like, you're young. You live with your parents. Like, go to college, work, start a business, do all of it now, because in 5 or 7 years, you might have a wife, you may have children, real responsibilities. Like that is the time, that is the prime time, even in high school, like that is the prime time for you to use every bit of your time to make the second half of your life a lot easier through hard work and diligence young.